medical community, and they want to bring in doctors, scientists, researchers from other countries who can help our community, who can be a benefit to our community, and they can't come in. It's very difficult for them to get here. We have a large agricultural community that has workers who are willing to come from other countries to come help with their product. And it's sometimes just seasonal and they want to go back to their country, but they can't come in. Well, if they can't come in, it's not surprising when they're trying to make a living for their family that many of them then try to come in illegally. So an important step in reducing illegal immigration is making our legal immigration system better. And we have 11 million or more illegal immigrants here in the country. And I think it's become very clear that we are not going to, as a country, have police or federal officials going door to door to round people up. Now, if someone commits a crime, of course they can be deported, but nobody's going to go door to door, house to house, and say, hey, do you have illegal immigrants here? And somehow ship off 11 million people. So we need to find a way to provide legal status for those who are here, and it should be a long path. It should be something that requires them to make a commitment to this country, and something that, a path that ensures to us that they will be good members of our community. And if they can satisfy those requirements, then I think they should be allowed to stay here. What happens with respect to citizenship is another question. I think you have to think about whether they came here knowingly or whether they were brought here as children and they have no culpability for violating our laws. If they were brought here as children, I think there's a stronger case to be made that they should be put on the normal system and have the ability to become citizens someday.
So going back to border security,
yeah.
I guess what I'm worried about is that it's really a backdoor effort to stop reform. We know that virtual technology that would, guide, control the borders is extremely expensive. It's very uncertain in a lot of respects. It's impossible to build physical barriers, both cost prohibitive and just unworkable. So I guess I just want to press you a little bit on that as a precondition to the other two pillars of a path to citizenship.
Well, you're never going to have a 100% secure border. That's not going to happen. So we're not talking about 100% secure border, because you can't get there. You can't get 100% of anything. You can't have 100% secure maximum security prison. Someone will get out. So there's no way to guarantee that, but there should be a high enough level of security to satisfy Americans that there is not a massive movement of immigrants over the border illegally.
But can conservatives ever be satisfied?
I can.
And what would it take?
It would take some assurances that the border security is actually working. And believe me, from my perspective, there is a large group of Republicans, Rand Paul would be one of them, and many others who are joining him now, who want to have immigrants here. My parents are immigrants. We don't want to make it difficult for immigrants to come here. We want to have a country that is welcoming to immigrants, that helps them to come here and assimilate and become a part of our culture here in the United States. So we're not trying to stop that, but if you want to have a compromise that can get most or nearly all Americans on board, then I think you have to have border security as a prerequisite.
So what is going to be done? For those who don't know, right now there are tremendous problems with a lot of the national databases that the Social Security Administration runs and the Department of Homeland Security maintain. Can you talk about what's being done to compel the government to correct the data errors in those databases so that when people are coming through that we're not inadvertently sending them away?
Yeah, well, I don't know the specifics of what's being done in, say, the executive branch level or other parts of government. I can say that for my part, we have issued our concerns about things like E-Verify. We're concerned about error rates. We're always concerned about government systems that compile data on people, because there is the potential for error rates. There's the potential for sending people away who have come here legally. I don't want to have a system in the United States where you're also asking people for their papers everywhere they go. So we need to find a friendly, secure way to handle this without requiring the government to collect all this data and risking high levels of error.
Great, thank you. Well, it wouldn't be an ACLU event if I didn't talk about gay marriage. I did ask if the Congressman wouldn't mind talking a little bit about it. So this week, the ACLU has a really important case in front of the United States Supreme Court. We're representing a woman named Edie Windsor, who was with her partner for many, many years. And when her partner passed away, Edie was stuck with a $375,000 estate tax, which she would not have had to pay if she'd been lawfully married. So that case, which is essentially a challenge to the constitutionality of the Defense of Marriage Act, is being argued on Wednesday. I believe it's Wednesday. Yeah, it's a great case. So obviously, this is an issue that has been very divisive. It's been very divisive in this state with the passage of the gay marriage ban, and I think it was now 2004. Public opinion is shifting very, very rapidly on this issue, as well as just on non-discrimination. So we'd like to know what you think the Supreme Court should do with respect to DOMA, and as a libertarian, whether you find it to be an unconstitutional provision.
Well, I would say that my view has always been that government should not be in the business of defining or redefining marriage. I see it as a private issue. I personally see it as a religious issue. To the same extent, I don't want the government involved in marriage, defining who gets married and who doesn't get married. I don't want the government deciding who has a legitimate baptism, who has a legitimate communion, who's involved in other personal relationships we have. So I want the government out of it. When it comes to DOMA, I've always opposed the federal definition of marriage in DOMA. So if it were repealed, I think that would be a step in the right direction with respect to that portion of DOMA. At the same time, I think that we want to be careful about requiring states to recognize definitions of other states. I think in our federal system of government, we should leave a lot of this to the state level and allow Michigan to make a determination about how it will handle marriage, and other states to make their own determinations.
Did you want to say something else?
No, and I think that's at least as a preliminary step. I mean, I personally don't support government defining it.
So then why not have concerns about states defining it? What difference does it make?
I do have concerns, but I think you've got to take this step by step. And right now, I think there is a growing segment of Americans who understand that having the federal government define it is a big problem, and would feel much more comfortable with allowing the states to handle this issue. It may be true that someday people say, well, the states shouldn't be involved in this either, and I think that would be a welcome move, because, as I said, it's a private issue. It's not a government issue.
Okay. All right, one more question, and then we'll open it up to the audience. So Congress's approval rating is pretty much at a low point in the eyes of the American public. Do you see a path forward to a more kind of civil, more thoughtful, more don't know if responsible would be the best word, but a more productive Congress?
Do I not in the immediate future. No.
Care to expand?
Well, the approval rating is reflective of, really it's reflective of leadership in both parties. It's not reflective of rank and file members. That's why you often have individual members who have much higher approval ratings within their own districts, yet Congress has such a low approval rating. It's because what people think of as Congress is basically what they think of as the agenda of leadership, whether it's Harry Reid in the Senate or John Boehner in the House. So clearly people are not supportive of the direction they're taking us in, and want to see a more independent-minded Congress, want to see more members who are willing to break from their parties and do what's right rather than what's easy. And in that respect, in the long run, I think we are moving in the right direction. It'll take a little bit of work to work its way in. But
why do you think that? Why do you think we're moving? What do you see?
I think what's moving us in the right direction is the internet. Because of social media, because of people's access now to their elected officials, you have greater ability as a representative or as a senator to be independent and to not worry about what your party is thinking about you. Because back before the internet, which was a scary time really, when you think about it.
How old is he?
I sometimes think back on on that time in my life, and I think that's really frightening. You had to wait till like 5 or 6 o'clock to find out what was happening in the world, and if it was like after 11:30, you had to wait till the next day. So it was a scary period of time. But what happened was, because people had so little information, if Justin Amash was running for something, what they knew about me was I was Republican. And so all of the pros and cons connected with Republicans would be connected to me prior to the internet, because they wouldn't really know that much about me. It was prohibitively expensive to reach out to every person. Now you have the internet, and I can do what I think is right. I can be independent. I can explain every vote I take, as I do right now on Facebook. And people can say, look, this is what Justin Amash thinks. It's different from what other Republicans think. And I think it provides for a better system of government. And over time, I think you'll have the breakdown of the party system because of it. Probably you're at the height of conflict between members and their parties now. You're getting to the point where it's starting to break down, where they can't keep us in line. And that's a positive development for the country.
I was just reading somewhere that, actually, to your point, that of course the internet has also very much changed the way money is raised, and so where it used to be that members of Congress were dependent on the leadership for funds for the races, that now of course they're...
They don't help me at all, trust me.
Yeah, but is that necessarily a good thing? I mean, I can't say that top-down always works. I can't say that the traditional structures are necessarily the best, but you know, is what you're suggesting also something that will lead to an even potentially more chaotic situation, and that is where everybody is just kind of out for themselves and whatever's going to get them reelected, and not so much about the good of the country and kind of coming together and compromising.
Well, I think people are more attuned to what's going on in their districts now.
Right, but we've got a whole country in front of us.
Of course, but my district is a microcosm of the country, and you know, my job is to go there and follow the Constitution. As long as I'm following the Constitution, I have there's a whole host of choices I can make within those bounds. But it's allowed me to work with members of both sides in ways that I probably couldn't have worked 10 or 15 years ago. It's allowed me to form coalitions with like-minded members within my own party that wouldn't have worked a few years ago. I mean, even with the, for example, Senator Rand Paul came out and took a bold position on immigration. A few of us said, hey, we like that position, we're going to support him. And we put out a letter of support. I don't think that would have happened before. I mean, you would have had the leadership corralling you in a certain direction, and there wouldn't have been any way to get that letter out right. I'm able to post that letter to Facebook and get it out to everyone right away, so everyone can hear my position on it. You know, there are the new ways of communicating with your constituents and hearing from them, I think, is beneficial to our system. It's not a detriment. And of course there are pros and cons. When you have one person making a decision, like you used to, where leadership really controlled everything and had concentrated power, yeah, things work more efficiently. But it can work efficiently in the wrong direction.
All right, I'll let him off the hook on that one, but let's open it up. Where's Joe? Joe Margoli.
I'm right.
Hi, Joe. So Joe's got a microphone, and he's going to walk around.